Until the tragic accident on the movie set of Rust, most people had never heard of a prop master. In this episode of Our Side of the Story, I interview Bren Baldessaro and talk to her about the many responsibilities of a set dresser and a prop master. We also talk about the special care that has to be given to guns on a movie set.
Hi, my name is Bren Baldessaro, and I am the set dresser and props master for Hazel.
Bren, you've been running, you put on more miles than anybody here. I see you run from one end of this building to the other all day long, every day. Tell me, you're the prop master. You have two titles, so let's start with that, prop master. What is a prop master?
Yeah, so prop master means that I go through the script and I make note of any props, any items that the actors will be handling directly. So any items that we could potentially need, that we are definitively need because they're written in the script. I make a master list of those. I track what scene they're a part of, who is using them, the day that we need them for, and then I or somebody else is responsible for going out and buying them. So I'm kind of coordinating the research into kind of the period behind it. I'm coordinating the items themselves on the day, and I'm coordinating the sourcing of the items. So,
Okay, so you're responsible for me not having a Diet Mountain Dew can in the middle of the set?
yes, that as well.
Okay. Making sure the
So,
set is the same, continuity, things like that?
yeah, I mean, for example, we had a bunch of apples for one scene. I had to make sure I had enough apples for Rufus to break in half, and then I had to make sure that that half apple reappeared in a scene that we're shooting today. So, keeping track of what happened with the props, who has them, making sure they're still in good condition, that sort of thing, because we are using historical items, so sometimes they need a little bit of repair, or, for instance, candlesticks. That's been a big thing here.
Right beside you.
Yes.
To make sure they stay the same height if they're burning
Yeah.
from scene to scene.
Exactly. So that means we'll have 3 versions of the same candle, and we'll just rotate it out between shots every time we need to light it, so that we don't have a stubby candle in one scene and a really tall candle in another.
Okay,
But
all right. Yeah, amazing all the things that you're in charge of. I know. Tell us about porridge.
oh, oh dear. So we had a scene, a breakfast scene. It was one of the first ones. I think it was scene like 3 or 4. And a big part of the script is that Hazel burns the porridge for for the morning's meal. And of course, the morning meal being one of the most important meals of the day for a farming family, this kind of sets up the relationship between her and her parents, her and her siblings, and her responsibilities as the eldest child within the home. So it's really kind of a pivotal scene in terms of her helping her mother provide breakfast and also establishing the family relationships. But as a prop, we had to figure out how to make porridge look burnt and then also be edible for the actors because they're not going to want to be eating burnt porridge for 4 hours. So we ended up testing a couple different things. I initially did some tests where I burnt it with like a blowtorch at home, where I cooked it down in a pan. But we ended up going with actually cooking some porridge, or just it's really just oatmeal, in the cast iron pan that we were using on set on the day, and burned it to the bottom so she could really like scrape it up. And then I created a version of the porridge that was edible, so just cooked it normally and then added brown and black frosting to kind of create that mottled look, and then mixed normal oatmeal back into it. So we had tubs of that on standby. We also had an actor that was gluten-free and celiac, so we ended up having to do kind of a similar thing for him, but we ended up putting coffee grounds and sugar in it to make it look like it had that darker texture to it.
I know you even explored the asphalt that we have in the
Yes.
garage. That might have
Yeah.
been my idea. That was really a bad one.
No, it was a good one. It honestly, it gave me a great jumping off point for the look of the burnt porridge that was edible. Because I was able to, when I first mixed it together, I was able to color match both the asphalt mix and the normal mix together.
Okay.
So that
And
was
no one ended up eating asphalt.
no
Oh,
one
thank
ended
goodness.
up.
Okay, because you did your job. All right, very good. Now we are sitting doing these interviews in the minor, like parlor, I think
Yeah.
they call this.
Yes.
This is their living room.
Mhm.
There's a fire burning behind you. We can see it flickering. Actually, our lighting techs have created the flickering light so your face looks like you're in front of a fire. Straight ahead of you is the kitchen where the porridge scene took place. It's starting to get taken down now, but all of these fixtures, like the books behind you, the lantern, the pieces of art on the wall, this is all your responsibility. I think I saw you and some of your team sewing those curtains out of burlap. Yeah, to create the window effects.
Yeah.
And then you also work closely with our designer, head of our art department, Greg Lucas, who was with Disney. Tell me about that experience, because brings to the table 20 plus years
Right,
of
yeah.
amazing talent, and he's a talented guy, I'm sure, to begin with, and then all that experience. How's that been?
I mean, it's been wonderful learning from him. He's got so much technical expertise as well as detail expertise. So in coming in here, he was able to really make the spaces come alive, because it really starts from the atmosphere that you set with like the paint colors and the walls. And so he had the challenge of coming in kind of halfway when things were sort of in motion, and he was able to come in and make it his own. So all the texturing that you see on the walls, that's him. That's his specialty. And then also a lot of the bigger fixtures and a lot of the technical aspects were his invention. So I mean, you don't see it as much in here. We're using a lot of props and set dressing that Dan, our director, actually made. So there's a cabinet armoire behind us that he made. He and his kids made these small tables, and then we had some more carpenters make the shelves. But a lot of the overall vision was a collaboration. Initially, I did some sketches here and there, and then Greg came in and he helped really fine tune the placement of things. So I'd often go to him for, hey, like, I'm thinking of putting this painting on this side of the wall versus this one. Do you think that will go best? And so it was a really great to get another set of eyes on things, especially one that has been in the industry of just sets for so long. He's got a great understanding of space and dimension and color, which is something that is really important, of course, for an art director to have and then to guide that creative process.
Now, you are certainly part of the art department, but you fall under the property department, I see. So that kind of your first responsibility are the props.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and your other title is set dresser. Okay, now I had not experienced a set dresser before. Explain what a set dresser is.
Sure. I mean, a set dresser is responsible for placing all of the items that you see in a set. So they'll collaborate with the production designer and the art director to have a cohesive overall vision, and then they will work with them to say, okay, I want to have this look and feel of curtains. Here are a couple options for you. Do you like this versus this? And then I'll go in and either create it myself, I'll find it, or I'll have someone else help me do all of those things. But it's really a lot of a coordination job, and then as well as deciding what items go where. So for example, if you're again looking at the candlesticks, I would be choosing the candlesticks and putting them up there, or if I wasn't sure, or if I wanted to make sure I was within the overall environment of the scene or of the just the look and feel of that particular set, then I'd be like, okay, here are a couple options of candlesticks. Do you have a preference? If there is no preference, I get to choose kind of what exactly goes everywhere. And then I also have the opportunity to be on set the day of. And so a lot of times we get to problem solve. So if the director wants something more to be added in the set, he will come and say, I'd like to see something in this corner. Do you have any ideas? And so I'm able to kind of be a part of that collaborative process and get to decide, hey, I think a clothesline would look really cool there, or another painting would look good there. So I get to kind of make those decisions.
We have an incredible inventory of props here. We have in this building, we have back rooms that are full of little
Hallways.
props and furniture like you're sitting on.
Yeah.
You had to come in here, I assume, and really get a grip on what was at your disposal here. Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of it was going into the back hallway with the general vision that I had in mind and saying, okay, is there anything here that fits into that? And kind of just honestly just sitting and staring at the shelves is a lot of what I did. Or if I sat and stared at the room, I'm like, okay, I need a painting. Let me go find the types of paintings that we have, or a rug, or a clock. I looked a lot at the clocks and the telephones, like deciding which crank phone looked best in each space. And then Dan, of course, and Greg had their input on that as well. But yeah, it was a lot of just kind of letting what we had influence the space a little bit. And it was really great because most of the stuff that we had is from the time period anyway. So it was less picking through and being like, okay, this doesn't quite work. There was obviously some of that, but a lot of it was allowing the items themselves to kind of speak into the space in a way.
We had, in particular, two different homes where you're in the interior right now of the minor home, which was depicted as a less prosperous family. Burlap sacks made out of drapes.
Yeah.
But then we also had the cook home, which they were a little more affluent. They had a stained glass window. They had maybe some oil paintings on the wall. So you had to, like, this wealthier family would have had this versus what a poor family of that era might have had.
Exactly. And a lot of it was understanding the time period, understanding the culture of the people. So a lot of my work as a set dresser and props master involves historical research, which I love doing. I graduated with a history degree in minor medieval studies, so I'm very familiar with kind of diving into particular time periods. But what was interesting about this show is that because we're out in rural North Dakota in 1920, we actually backdated the show to probably around 1895, 1910. So roughly around that time period in terms of the items. So the look and feel, especially of a more rustic home such as this, you know, it's going to be more of the late 1800s than what you would typically think of the 1920s. And same thing with the cook parlor. They're going to be coming right out of that Victorian late Civil War period, and we've got the connections between the countries. So you would have quite a bit of influence back and forth. But then, of course, there's the uniquely American versus like looking at the family history of the individuals and the individuals involved.
We have the grandson of Emmett, who was one of the children actually saved by Hazel on set. Have you met him?
No, I haven't.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah. What were his thoughts?
He's been so impressed with, just thrilled with what's been created around his family story. You've done a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Of honoring that memory and that family history.
He was the one that wrote Angel of the Prairie, correct? Or someone in his family?
Yeah. I think he brought it to Dan's attention, or Dan saw it and then kind of searched him out.
Right.
Yep.
That was very helpful because inputting like family anecdotes and getting those extra details really helped kind of flesh out that world of and knowing where the family came from and what they may have brought with them. That sort of thing. So tiny details were key.
How did Canticle Productions find you? How did you find Canticle Productions? How did you get here?
Wild story, kind of. I mean, I'm from Maine, so.
And you currently live in Maine.
I currently live in Maine. Yes.
Okay.
So, what ended up happening is I went down to university in Florida. So I went down to Ave Maria University. It's a university just right outside, maybe like 45 minutes outside of Naples on the southwest side of Florida. And that was actually where Dan did his undergrad. And so he knew of the school and he came back to show.
What school is that?
Ave Maria University.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen you with an Ave Maria equestrian shirt on. So were you involved with the horses at that college?
Yeah, so we had an equestrian club sport team that I competed on. I didn't compete a ton, just because I was there during COVID and things were kind
Oh.
of up in the air. But I did train with the team for 3 years while I was there. And then I was also involved in the drama club. I was one of the actors and then moved into assistant directing and directing in my final years there. So
And Dan was there at the same time?
so Dan was there recently, and he came back after he'd been teaching at UMary for a while.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is Dan and I's relationship is fairly recent. He came to the school to show some of his films, and the person that was coordinating his visit reached out to me and say, "Hey, can you pass this along to your drama club people?" And a couple of us ended up going to watch his films because he did a couple showings there, and he also did a script writing workshop. So I was able to attend that and then
Which
connect with
film?
him after. He showed, I think, End of the Rope and Sanctified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think he may have shown Heart Like Water as well. I want to say there was three, but funny enough, I unfortunately didn't actually get to see any of those films until much later on my own time, just because I was in the middle of rehearsals. So we actually got booted out of the Prince building for the movie showing.
Okay.
That was normally our rehearsal space, which is funny.
But that's where you met him. That's where
Yes.
you first crossed paths. You
Yeah.
stayed in touch.
Yep. So
And-
that was like an 8-month process over my senior year. So I recently graduated college like a year ago.
Oh, okay.
So he did the workshop, and I connected with him after. I said, "Hey, I'm interested in going in the set decoration, set dressing route. Do you have any advice? Do you have any kind of career opportunities?" And he mentioned that he did an internship program. And when the show that I was directing, it was Mary Poppins, ended, I reached out later that year and I was like, "Hey, do you have any more career opportunities?" And so we had a just kind of on and off communication over the summer. He said, "Hey, would love you to be a PA on a couple films." And I said, "That would be great. I can only do one." But then he reached out in November and said, "Hey, we have an opening for a props master and set dresser. Is that something that you would be interested in filling?" So that's kind of how the
And
working
here you are.
relationship. And here I am. And we're
Okay.
almost wrapped on Hazel. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
been a long
So, you read the script. You had to study the script to get details.
Mhm.
Huh? Yep.
That's
Yep.
it.
Oh,
You're good.
I didn't know if you were. So you look for details to make sure you had the props. Now, you've been hands-on. Like, I think yesterday I took a picture of you. You were on your hands and knees out here in the hall, kind of in an open area, working on tarps. Tell me about what you were doing yesterday, which is typical of every day. You work very hard, but yesterday, what did you do yesterday? Because I saw
Yeah.
you working on something.
So when you caught me on the floor, I was taping up pieces of canvas. It's actually muslin that we've painted to look dirt spattered and like it'd been dragged along the road. But I was ripping it in half and then taping it back together for a practical effects shot that we had to do today, where the canvas rips and flies in with a bunch of snow at the kids' faces while they're in the interior sled. So I was kind of rigging that up and creating that effect.
Have we had that scene yet?
We have, yes.
Did it work?
It did.
Okay, that's good.
It was a big collaboration between a bunch of people, just like people putting ideas out there and testing things. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that all of the canvas scenes today went well.
Okay. So, are you nearing the end of your strange needs here for Hazel?
I think so.
Okay.
I say that, and you never know.
Okay.
Something could happen where we're readjusting a blanket, we're fixing something so it can tie easier, we're fudging something so that it looks better on camera. Again, it's a lot of it is kind of last minute, which
Okay.
is exciting, but sometimes a little stressful. But
Most of the time, you are right next to the camera. I see you right on the set. While they're filming, while they're in between takes, you're touching stuff up. Tell me a little bit about being right in the thick of things.
yeah, I mean, it's really cool being generally part of the art department. We're on standby usually, either me or the person that I'm working with, Sophia, and we have a new PA that just came in. Her name is Sydney. So at least one or two of us are on set at all times, ready for if they call art, we'll help reset some things. So right now we have the sled up in the snowscape with wild walls, meaning they can kind of come in and come out as needed. And this allows Gareth, our DP, to really get into a specific shot and
He's
sit
our
somewhere.
cameraman, our
Yes.
lead cameraman.
He allows him to sit where he needs to sit, whether to get that correct perspective, where he may otherwise not normally be able to get had the walls not been able to move. So we're responsible for moving that. We're responsible for resetting parts of the set if something goes up. So right now we've got a canvas on the floor, and underneath it is like this cotton material. We call it's a snow blanket. So sometimes that peeks through, and we have to like make sure to cover it. Or yesterday I ended up mixing a combination of wood glue, some fine shavings, and brown paint to create sort of a putty that would cover some screw holes to just smooth
To
over
cover what?
some screw holes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In the wagon.
In the wagon, yeah.
Okay.
Just they would not have had screws in.
Oh, okay.
So just covering that anachronism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even like an obvious some with anachronisms, just kind of paying attention to historical accuracy. So I ended up looking up how to use a crank phone, and ended up talking to the actors about how to do that. So we're kind of on call with any physical environmental items that could possibly be needed on the day.
Have you worked on a feature film before?
No,
Like this? Okay.
I have not.
Um, so this is your first time in a snowscape.
Mm-hmm.
What challenges did that create for you to work in a blizzard
Sure.
indoors?
A lot of it was just the snow resets, just the amount of times that we would move snow around, the amount of times that we would move some of the large snow structures around, putting pine trees on stands and shoving them in various different angles to make roads look like they're slanted, or make it look like the actors are walking uphill just based on the shot that is happening. I think that was probably just challenging being in that more enclosed environment,
Okay.
being with the elements in a different way. So the snow is pretty dusty.
You worked around our Zoom or our special effects screen. You worked around our special effects screen. How did that interplay with you, with mixing our false reality with our digital reality with our actual reality? How were you involved in that process?
Yeah, I mean, it was surprisingly easy. We had a great backdrop created by Tarek. He kind of operated that. He's our VFX artist. And a lot of it was collaboration with Greg. He designed the buildings and put them up. And then it would be small things, like sometimes we'd work with James, put a little bit more snow in a particular corner to blend between.
James is our snow expert from Snow Business.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he and I would collaborate on like, hey, James, could you put a little bit more snow here, like in this pile, to just dress in the set to make it look a little bit more full and a little bit more complete. Sometimes it would be working with Greg to take a pile of weeds or a bale of straw and tuck that away in the corner. So when you look through the lens, it looks seamless. But a lot of it is kind of seeing where the reality kind of blurs a little bit at the edges and filling that in, and then making the foreground look as complete as possible.
I know one time they had to add a bird nest to the top of a barn to cover where the
screen ended.
And I thought that was genius how all of a sudden, there's a big old crow's nest or whatever that is up there covering that hole. So fixes on the fly. You had to do that.
Yeah.
You did have experience with horses to some degree at least, because you were part of the equestrian team at college.
Yes.
You had live horses in everything you were, not everything, but a lot of the scenes had live horses. What challenges did that give the set dresser?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find too many challenges just with the nature of some of the scenes that we were doing. But sometimes it was moving a set piece or item a little bit farther out so the horse had a little bit more room. Maybe it was adding some more carpet to the snowscape so that there was less slipping going on. So that would be moving snow or moving set dressing that was underneath it, putting the blankets down, making or the carpets down, making sure that it stayed in place, and then covering it with snow and making sure that all reblended seamlessly into the set. So a lot of it was practical elements like that, or moving, like I said, moving elements out of range of a hoof. When bringing things in, just being conscientious.
Out of range of a hoof?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
A hoof. If we were bringing items in, then it was just making sure that you didn't bring in a super scary item, and if it was something that could potentially be scary, like a floating tumbleweed, making sure the horse could kind of look at it first, or at least the wranglers were
So you're
aware.
not startling the horse.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
These horses seem very well behaved from my perspective. Looking at them, it seemed like we threw snow in their face. It was all effects, but these horses seemed to take it very well. Was that your experience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the Schultz wrangling, the
Yeah.
people that did the horses, they're movie horses. They've trained them particularly well to be in the term is bomb proof. So you go through a desensitization process with the horses. So I don't know exactly what that looked like for them, but the horses have obviously been on many movie sets. They're familiar with the environment. But just talking with them, they'd say, hey, like if there's haze going on, if there's environmental effects like snow, let's just have the horses be able to get used to that and walk in. And then it was just keeping them informed of any practical effects like I was doing. So there was a tumbleweed that flew through the air right near a horse. So a lot of times they're like, oh yeah, that's totally fine. They're super chill. They're gonna be okay with that. And sometimes it was like, okay, let's let them get a closer look at that, because the reality is that they are still horses when it comes down to it. They're a prey animal, and so their instinct is flight. So we don't want them booking it out of the snowscape in a panic.
Okay.
That's a question.
You are prop master of this. Our current movie, Hazel, isn't a big guns movie, but there was a gun hanging above that fireplace.
Yes.
And I see it's not there because it's very carefully handled, even though it's a prop. It's a total fake gun. But I know our first AD, when it was brought on set, was very particular about how it was handled. There was a scene where some bullets were spread, I believe, on the floor or a table, even though they're prop bullets. Tell us about that. Now that we're in the days past Rust, where a terrible tragedy happened on a movie set, there's a whole new concern for props that are firearms and dangerous. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I mean, we wanted to take as many precautions as possible. So following the new procedure, anytime the firearm or the bullets were brought on set, it was announced by the first AD, and only one of the producers was able to, or the first AD was able to handle that and bring that on set. So that was stored not on set. And when it came on, it was only handled by the people that absolutely needed to handle it, or the person that was bringing it out. And so that was announced to everyone. It was announced, again, this is a fake gun. This is a prop gun. It doesn't actually work. These are fake bullets that they're empty. They've been filled to look like they're live, but they are not. And so those, like you said, they were scattered on the floor. So we took a lot of precautions to make sure that people knew when it was coming on set, when it was coming off set, who was needed to handle it, and then just the research into using those prop materials was something that Kaylee, one of our producers, and I coordinated on.
Okay. Very serious business. Okay. Like, for example, there are 2 nails on our wall, but there's no gun there today because even though no one is in here, that gun is put away and special. I guess I'm jumping ahead, but will you be joining us for Medora?
Yes.
Okay, Medora has a lot of guns.
Yes.
That's a Western. That is 1880s North Dakota.
Absolutely.
So is that going to fall, is the handling of those guns going to fall under that's a property
It's a property
department?
item technically, but I will not be most likely handling that because there are so many and because it's combined with stunts and effects. So that'll be a collaboration between, I think, me, stunts, but also any armory type people that are providing the prop guns. So they'll come in, to my knowledge at least, as of right now, they'll come in and they'll educate people on how to use it. Again, following the correct procedures on when that comes on and off, is my understanding, and then operating any of those effects.
I understand now that the firing of those guns will mostly be created in special effects.
Yep.
So we're not even going to have
Yeah.
blanks in the guns.
No.
That they'll be, the flame or smoke or sound will all be added later with special effects. Well, okay, well, we certainly want to handle all of those things very safely here, but yeah, the tragedy that happened, we're all very saddened by it and
Yeah.
concerned for the industry. So, okay.
With the host families and then. your
Okay,
next question.
so we're an independent film, so we're watching our budgets in all kinds of different
Yes.
ways. One of those things is we've had some generous families here in Bismarck open up their homes, and you're in one of those host
I am.
families.
Yeah.
You and I had a very fun experience going to your host family's sister's farm,
Yeah.
and we found some amazing props in his barn. Tell us what other experience have you had with your host family?
Yeah. Well, one that was very fun. I believe it was I had to get this straight. It was her sister's boyfriend's farm, and he owns and breeds horses. I think quarter horses. So we got to hang out with the foals that day. But yeah, I've been very, very blessed to be with a woman named Carol. She's very familiar with the productions and is very on board with what Dan is doing. And I believe is one.
You're going to be joining us from Medora.
Yes.
So we're done filming here in a few days.
Yeah.
Will you be going home to Maine in the meantime, or you can be staying here working on props, painting, helping us build the next sets? Yes? No? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I will be going home on Sunday. So
Okay.
right after we wrap, I'll be going home and resuming work for my job back home. So I work as a digital studio coordinator. So kind of doing what Michael's doing now with like videos and interviews and that sort of thing. So I'll be going back to that, and then staying in touch with people here. With Greg in particular, just as he finishes designing and building the sets. We've already started talking about wallpaper and various different curtains and different like rug items. So that's going to be really, really exciting to continue to collaborate with him and figure out just a look and feel, and then also source those items and start to see the materials come in and come together. So I'll be doing some of that, either it's ordering it or talking to people here that are able to go and do some set deck buying for me. So for instance, we're looking for a set of period appropriate glassware. So I will be looking into the research for that and then saying to someone, hey, here are some parameters. Can you go and find some options for me? So
Like maybe shopping our antique stores.
exactly.
Okay.
Treasure trove here
Yeah.
of all sorts of things. So having someone on the ground here is extremely beneficial when working remotely, just because I can't be here looking at all the items myself.
So we start shooting again mid next month. We'll have prep week.
Mid July. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't scare me.
well, it's almost June. Okay.
Oh my gosh, wait, you're right.
Okay, it's almost June, so it's mid next month. So
Okay.
we will have prep week,
Mhm.
which is massive. I had no idea how hard prep week is, which is the week before actual primary photography starts. You'll come back for prep week?
That's my hope. This time around, I was only able to come for like the last 3 days of prep week. So that meant that I had to get the location sets and the interior sets as complete as possible within a couple days. It may be a similar situation this time just because of being remote and having a job so far away. But yeah, prep week is incredibly important.
You'll be back in Maine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot
All
of
right.
my prep happens in the next month of just coordinating with people, doing as much
But
as
you're
I can.
leaving pretty much Sunday or whatever.
Yeah, I
Okay.
am.
Yeah, because you've been here a month now.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little over a month with
Mhm.
prep week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's going to be your biggest takeaway from your Hazel experience?
Um, I don't think I can pin it down to one particular takeaway. I think overall the it's been such a learning curve for me just because I've never been on a film set before. So this is my first foray into set dressing. I mean, I did a little bit of set design work for theater for the drama club, but again, very, very different in terms of what you're able to get and source for a college theater club versus you're creating full scale environments here. So I think learning to hone my skills just in seeing a room, kind of trust my own instincts a little bit, getting to collaborate with people, just make a more complete vision come to life. That's something I've always enjoyed and been really excited to delve into here. But then I think also just the importance of adaptability on set. Just having and so many people here are like this and they've been in the industry for a long time. So they can definitely speak testament to just the importance of being adaptable because things change on the day, of being creative and collaborative, and just having fun. So I would say just if that was like a takeaway that I had to like pull from this, um, I would choose those things as something that I've really taken to heart and really learned and really grown from in this experience.
All right. All right.
So,
Great.
yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's perfect.
Very cool.
Cool.
Thank you. And I hope you'll subscribe so we can spread the word about filmmaking far from Hollywood. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Check out Check out this episode. It's all about the props we used in our movies.